Welcome to Ratchet Book Club, where we read hood classics and good classics. I'm Derek. 916-633-1537, Ratchet and Ratchet at gmail.com, Ratchet Book Club on Twitter, Ratchet Book Club on Facebook. Welcome to Ratchet Book Club, where we read hood classics and good classics. I'm Derek. 916-633-1537, Ratchet and Ratchet at gmail.com, Ratchet Book Club on Twitter, Ratchet Book Club on Facebook. I'm on a diet. I'm not on the diet. I'm just eating healthier, like more vegetables, more vegetarian fare, things of that nature. Less sugars. Drinking like sparkling ice and that sort of drink, which is much better than bubbly because sparkling ice actually has a flavor, unlike bubbly, which just has, they thought they were putting flavor into it, but they didn't. They thought they were making people happy, but they weren't. That sort of thing. But anyway, so been doing it for a couple months now. Feeling good, looking good. Exercise every day or most days. Haven't had a cookie in a really, really, really long time. I've eaten rainbow sherbet, which I found out is milk-based, and it's probably not nearly as healthy as I thought it was. So I have to cut that out after I finish this last container. You know what I'm saying? But as far as sugars go, I'm pretty good about being able to cut them out. Then came this book, and now I'm eating a cookie. I'm just saying. I'm not blaming anybody for this, Anissa. I'm just saying that this book came and now I'm eating a Pizookie-sized cookie with my fingers out of the container, like digging into it and eating it, licking the chocolate off my fingers, lavishing it. Like really, it's been a really long time since I had a chocolate chip cookie, but still, somebody's going to die in this book. I already know that. I've steeled my heart towards it. I'm pretty sure I know exactly who it's going to be. It's going to be Ellen. I am just like... Also, I do want to tell y'all that you should, if you enjoyed this book as a kid or, you know, whatever, you should watch Jojo Rabbit. It's made by the guy who made Thor Ragnarok and the pirate TV show that was on HBO. I don't remember. Our Flag Means Death, I think it's what it's called. But he made Jojo Rabbit, and it's really good. Like, it doesn't get nearly the love I feel it deserves, which is a lot. So, y'all should check that out and then let me know that it was great because I deserve that. Because I'm about to read what feels to me like something that's going to end up being very traumatic. And I don't know when the traumatic is happening, and I don't want y'all to tell me when the traumatic is happening, but trauma's coming. And I don't... Chapter 4. It will be a long night. Alone in the apartment while Mama was out shopping with Kirsty, Anne-Marie and Ellen were sprawled on the living room floor playing with paper dolls. They had cut the dolls from Mama's magazines, old ones she had saved from past years. I've seen paper dolls. I've seen them before. I think they used to have them on the back of cereal boxes or else in some of the activity books that my mom used to buy us from the store. You know, the coloring book sort of thing. But there were paper dolls in them. And we would cut them out and you would color them in. And then you would put more paper over them for the clothing. And then you would just realize I'm playing with a paper doll. And you would go do whatever it was you were doing before, which was usually the connect the dots on the next page. Being in a society where paper dolls was all you could play with had to have been sucky. And this is coming from a guy who, when my kids were little, like 6, 7, 8, 9, and 2, I made coloring books for them from scratch. I would do the artwork for them and then let them color them in because we couldn't afford coloring books. But I don't think I would have ever been at a place where my children would have had to have paper dolls. I feel like now paper dolls are probably pretty valuable. Like they can be historic because I haven't seen a paper doll in years. I haven't gone looking for paper dolls either, but still, like, I just feel like those things are something that kids don't have anymore, but maybe in poorer places like Ohio. Yeah, I did that on purpose. They had cut the dolls from Mama's magazines, the old ones she had saved from past years. The paper ladies had old-fashioned hat styles and clothes, and the girls had given them names from Mama's very favorite book. Mama had told Anne-Marie and Ellen the entire story of Gone with the Wind, and the girls thought it much more interesting and romantic than the king and queen tales that Kirsty loved. And racist. Just throwing it out there, your mom's favorite book involves a lot of racism. But you know, only when it happens to the other races do we not care. That didn't come out right. Only when it happens to our race do we generally care about what's going on in other places. Because that's just society. And the myopic nature of humanity. Yeah, best way to put it. Come, Melanie, Anne-Marie said, walking her doll along the edge of the rug. Let's dress for the ball. All right, Scarlett, I'm coming, Ellen replied in a sophisticated voice. She was a talented performer. She often played the leading role in school dramatics. Games of the imagination were always fun when Ellen played. The door opened and Kirsty stomped in, her face tear-stained and glowering. Mama followed her with an exasperated look and set a package down on the table. I won't, Kirsty sputtered. I won't ever wear them. Not if you chain me in a prison and beat me with sticks. Five-year-olds talk like this? Not like the talking back to the parents thing. I'm not trying to sound like some old dude who's like, oh, just talking back to the parents. Go get the whip. No, nothing like that. She's speaking very sophisticatedly for a 5-year-old. I'm just speaking out loud because when Kid Awesome was 4, I think, yeah, I'm just a kid who's 4. Yeah, I'm Devin. Yeah, Devin's Corner. He was 4. And he was talking about wanting to be a ninja. Not a ninja, a ninja. And how he cried when he fell off his bike with the training wheels. Stuff like that. So I won't ever wear them. Not if you chain me in a prison and beat me with sticks. Wait, what? No, not you. Not 5-year-old. Maybe 8. I'll give you 8. 8 with the internet. Yeah. 8 with the iPad that you give your kids to be quiet while you watch something else. Yeah, they could pick that up. 5? Anne-Marie giggled and looked questioningly at her mother. Miss Johansson sighed. I bought Kirsty some new shoes, she explained. She's outgrown her old ones. Goodness, Kirsty, Ellen said. I wish my mother would get me some new shoes. I love new things, and it's so hard to find them in the stores. Not if you go to a fish store, Kirsty bellowed. But most mothers wouldn't make their daughters wear ugly fish shoes. Sophisticated. I don't know. Like the hazard lights are just going off in my head. Like a 5-year-old? For real? Word? A 5-year-old? Okay. No, not at all. Kirsten, Mama said soothingly, you know it wasn't a fish store, and we were lucky to find shoes at all. Kirsty sniffed. Show them, she commanded. Show Anne-Marie and Ellen how ugly they are. All right, now you're pushing it. You're pushing it just a little bit. Like your shoes got holes in them. Like I see your toe. Like that one right there. We named it Toby, remember? You have black shoes, so you wanted to color it black, but then your sister talked you out of it because she said that would have been blackface. So now you're convinced that your toe has a face. And I try to tell your sister not to do stuff like that, but your sister, she's different. She has an imagination that you'll never understand, I guess. But you were literally stuffing paper towels into the hole in the shoe so then the rain wouldn't get in there and soak your foot on up. And now you mad because we got you these shoes that you may not like. But when Derek was 5 years old, he was wearing Lottos and Pro Wings and Kangaroos. And I thought I was so cool with the Kangaroos. Like, I got to be honest with y'all. I thought I was really doing something with the Kangaroos because the Kangaroos had the pocket on the side of the shoe. It wasn't until I was like 8 or 9 that I realized the reason why my mom gave me a shoe with pockets on it was because she knew the one place I want to lose my key is if she stuffed it into my shoe. So guess what I did? Mama opened the package and took out a pair of little girl's shoes. She held them up, and Kirsty looked away in disgust. You know there's no leather anymore, Mama explained. But they found a way to make shoes out of fish skin. They did? I don't think these are too ugly. Anne-Marie and Ellen looked at the fish skin shoes. Anne-Marie took one in her hand and examined it. It was odd looking. The fish scales were visible. But it was a shoe, and her sister needed shoes. Tell Mr. Nunu. That's what you do, girl. Girl, look, they shiny. Those fish skins, you know what? You go out there and you tell them this is that fish scale. This is that new cocaine. This is that right there. Look at this. Look how it glimmered when the light hit it. You ain't got nothing like this. Y'all thought they were sequins? Nah, they fish skins, homie. Not sequins, fish skins. You know what I'm talking about. Nah, you can't touch them. I keep thinking about Notorious B.I.G. talking about while everybody else flirted, he was selling tigers on his shirts and alligators, and you want to see the inside. I'll see you later. Like, these are the new Jordanis. Let me see the inside. Nope. It's not so bad, Kirsty, she said, lying a little. Ellen turned the other one over in her hand. You know, she said, it's only the color that's ugly. Thanks, Ellen. Thank you so much. Like, A1 job there. While your mama is drinking hot water with herbs in it and saying that it's coffee. Like, up top. You did that, girl. Green, Kirsty yelled. I will never, ever wear green shoes. Why not? In our apartment, Ellen told her, my father has a jar of black ink. Would you like these shoes better if they were black? Kirsty frowned. Maybe I would, she said, finally. Well then, Ellen told her, tonight, if your mom doesn't mind, I'll take the shoes home and ask my father to make them black for you with this ink. Mama laughed. I think that would be a fine improvement. What do you think, Kirsty? Kirsty pondered. Could he make them shiny? She asked. I want them shiny. Ellen nodded. I think he could. I think they'd be quite pretty, black and shiny. Shiny and chrome. Witness me. Kirsty nodded. All right then, she said. I can't say all right then like that. You got to say, all right then. All right then, she said. But you mustn't tell anyone that they're fish. I don't want anyone to know. She took her new shoes, holding them disdainfully, and put them on a chair. Then she looked at interest at the paper dolls. Why'd her mom even tell them they were fish shoes? She's 5. I'm not saying 5-year-olds are stupid. I'm just saying that they're pretty self-absorbed. If you didn't tell her they were fish shoes, like they believe in Santa Claus. And if your kid is listening, it's time for the talk, I guess. They believe in stuff that isn't there anymore, like hope. Oh, this chocolate got me just zooming. Woo! Can I play too? Kirsty asked. Can I have a doll? She squatted beside Anne-Marie and Ellen on the floor. Sometimes, Anne-Marie thought, Kirsty was such a pest, always butting in. But the apartment was small, and there was no other place for Kirsty to play. And if they told her to go away, Mama would scold. Here, Anne-Marie said, and handed her sister a cutout little girl doll. We're playing Gone with the Wind. Melanie and Scarlett are going to a ball. You could be Bonnie. She's Scarlett's daughter. Kirsty danced her doll up and down happily. I'm going to the ball, she announced in a high, pretend voice. You know who probably didn't get a doll? Mammy. Ellen giggled. A little girl wouldn't go to a ball. Let's make them go somewhere else. Let's make them go to Tivoli. Tivoli? Anne-Marie began to laugh. That's in Copenhagen. Gone with the Wind is in America. Tivoli, 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 little Kirsty sang, twirling her doll in a circle. It doesn't matter because it's only a game anyway, Ellen pointed out. Tivoli can be over there, by that chair. Come, Scarlett, she said, using her doll voice. We shall go to Tivoli to dance and watch the fireworks, and maybe there'll be some handsome men there. Bring your silly daughter, Bonnie, and she can ride on the carousel. Anne-Marie grinned and walked her Scarlett towards the chair that Ellen designated at Tivoli. She loved Tivoli Gardens in the heart of Copenhagen. Her parents had taken her there often when she was a little girl. She remembered the music and the brightly colored lights, the carousel and the ice cream, and especially the magnificent fireworks in the evenings. The huge colored splashes and bursts of light in the evening sky. I gotta be honest with y'all. I mean, I'm always honest with you, except for when I'm not, and you can't tell, but one of the best times I ever had, like literally, just memorable. Like right now I can close my eyes and still picture it, was when we went to Oktoberfest in Germany. It was so, I know I'm not supposed to be talking nice about Germany right now because the Nazis are outside and all that kind of stuff, but it was so great. The music was pumping. They had this song called Alice. I can't sing it here because, kids. The food was great. The rides were perfect. It was just like I don't like beer. I don't like beer. And they had these huge beer steins. They were like the size of, they were huge, Bob. And I just wouldn't do the beer steins. But other than that, like everything was great. Germany, like Europe is dope. Except they don't, they probably like black people better in America now. So, why not go check it out again? Take my wife, go to Europe, cruise, get off in places, drink beer. Maybe not that last part, but go places, get mistaken as a retired. That's the other best part about Europe. My brother and I, being tall and being a sound mind and body, were mistaken for athletes a lot. We were also called racial slurs. You take them as they come. I remember the fireworks best of all, she commented to Ellen. Me too, Kirsty said. I remember the fireworks. Silly, Anne-Marie scoffed. You never saw the fireworks. Tivoli Gardens was closed now. The German occupation forces had burnt part of it, perhaps as a way of punishment for the fun-loving Danes for their light-hearted pleasures. Kirsty drew herself up, her small shoulders stiff. I did too, she said belligerently. It was my birthday. I woke up in the night and I could hear the booms, and there were lights in the sky. Mama said it was fireworks for my birthday. Then Anne-Marie remembered. Kirsty's birthday was late in August, and that night, only a month before, she too had been awakened and frightened by the sound of explosions. Kirsty was right. The sky in the southeast had been ablaze, and Mama had comforted her by calling it a birthday celebration. Imagine such fireworks for a little girl 5 years old, Mama had said, sitting on their bed, holding the dark curtain aside to look through the window at the lighted sky. The next evening's newspaper had told the sad truth. The Danes had destroyed their own naval fleet, blowing up the vessels one by one, as the Germans approached to take over the ships for their own use. Yeah, that's deep. That's dark. That's gritty. That's grimy. Cool, whatever. She just turned 5. I know that there's other things on here that are probably more important, but in the grand scheme of things, she just turned 5. There's no way she's mad about those shoes. At all. No. Make her 7. 7-year-olds are mad about everything. They're an evil little bunch. Oh my goodness. How sad the king must be, Anne-Marie heard Mama say to Papa when they read the news. How proud, Papa had replied. It had made Anne-Marie feel sad and proud too, to picture the tall, aging king, perhaps with tears in his blue eyes, as he looked at the remains of his small navy, which now lay submerged and broken in the harbor. I don't want to play anymore, Ellen, she said suddenly, and put her paper doll on the table. I have to go home anyway, Ellen said. I have to help Mama with the house cleaning. Thursday is our new year. Did you know that? Why is it yours? Asked Kirsty. Isn't it our new year too? No, it's the Jewish New Year. That's just for us. But if you want, Kirsty, you can come that night and watch Mama light the candles. Anne-Marie and Kirsty had often been invited to watch Miss Rosen light the Sabbath candles on Friday evenings. She covered her head with the cloth and said a special prayer in Hebrew as she did so. Anne-Marie always stood very quietly, awed to watch. Even Kirsty, usually such a chatterbox, was always still at that time. They didn't understand the words or the meaning, but they could feel what a special time it was for the Rosens. Yes, Kirsty agreed happily. I'll come and watch your mama light the candles, and I'll wear my new black shoes. Okay, so the Jewish New Year is Rosh Hashanah, which I've always heard about, but, you never know what it actually is. You just know that it's a holiday, but you don't celebrate it, so you know what? I didn't celebrate it, so it's like, whatever. But Rosh Hashanah this year begins on Wednesday, October 2nd, and it ends Friday, October 4th. If her birthday, I'm still on this, if her birthday was at the end of October, or at the end of August, September, October, that means she is 5 years and 2 months. Nah, you should be in bed. Go to bed, little girl. Get out of my face. But this time was to be different. Leaving for school on Thursday with her sister, Anne-Marie saw the Rosens walking to the synagogue early in the morning, dressed in her best clothes. She waved to Ellen, who waved happily back. Lucky Ellen, Anne-Marie said to Kirsty. She doesn't have to go to school today. But she probably has to sit very, very still like we do in church, Kirsty pointed out. That's no fun. That afternoon, Miss Rosen knocked at their door but didn't come inside. Instead, she spoke for a long time in a hurried, tense voice to Anne-Marie's mother in the hall. When Mama returned, her face was worried, but her voice was cheerful. Girls, she said, we have a nice surprise. Tonight, Ellen will be coming to stay overnight and will be our guest for a few days. It isn't often we have a visitor. Yeah, I figured. I was wondering about that. Like, if the Germans, being the jerks that they are in this book, are in, Nazis, jerks, like I could be real about it. The Nazis, being jerks, probably would do something to the Jewish folks on their New Year while they're all in the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just pictured it, that's what they would do. So this probably happened. But Mama, Anne-Marie said in dismay, it's their New Year. They were going to have a celebration at home. Ellen told me that her mother managed to get a chicken someplace and she was going to roast it. Their first roast chicken in a year or more. Their plans have changed, Mama said briskly. Mr. and Mrs. Rosen have been called away to visit some relatives. Ooh, they on the run. So Ellen will stay with us. Now, let's get busy and put clean sheets on your bed. Kirsty, you may sleep with Mama and Papa tonight, and we'll let the big girls giggle together by themselves. Kirsty pouted, and it was clear that she was about to argue. Mama will tell you a special story tonight, her mother said. One just for you. About a king? Kirsty asked dubiously. About a king, if you wish, Mama replied. All right, then. But there must be a queen, too, Kirsty said. I really should stop saying it like that. There's going to be kids somewhere who hear that and think it really is. All right, then. But all right, then. But there has to be a queen, too. Yo, I'm 5. I just turned 5. I talked to y'all like gentle parenting's really a thing back in the 40s? When did this all happen? Okay, so again, I'm not sorry at all because I don't know this stuff. But if you knew this stuff, then it's rehashing it for you. But if you didn't, hold on tight. Here we go. The Holocaust happened between 1941 and 1945. However, prior to the Holocaust, the Nazis developed their ideology and seized power in early 1933. They forced all German Jews, regardless of means, to attempt to immigrate and passed anti-Jewish laws, encouraged harassment, and orchestrated a nationwide program in November 1938. Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, and occupation authorities began to establish ghettos to segregate Jews. Following the June 1941 invasion of the Soviet Union, 1 to 2 million Jews were shot by German forces. Okay, what I need to check on is when did Germany invade Denmark? April 9th, 1940, they invaded Denmark. So we're either in October of 1940 or October of 1941. Again, after they invaded the Soviet Union in June of 1941 is when they started kidnapping and killing people. It's when the Holocaust started. So if we're in October of 1940 right now, and they're already starting to shut people's stuff down, then this book is going to run head on into the Holocaust. Boy. Though Miss Rosen had sent her chicken to the Johanssons, and Mama made a lovely dinner large enough for second helpings all around, it was not an evening of laughter and talk. Ellen was silent at dinner. She looked frightened. Mama and Papa tried to speak of cheerful things, but it was clear that they were worried, and it made Anne-Marie worry too. Only Kersey was unaware of the quiet tension in the room. Swinging her feet in their newly blackened and shiny shoes, she chattered and giggled throughout dinner. "Early bedtime tonight, little one," Mama announced after the dishes were washed. "We need extra time for a long story I promised, about the king and queen." She disappeared with Kersey into the bedroom. "What's happening?" Anne-Marie asked when she and Ellen were alone with Papa in the living room. "Something's wrong. What is it?" Papa's face was troubled. "I wish that I could protect you children from this knowledge," she said quietly. "Ellen, you already know. Now we must tell Anne-Marie." He turned to her and stroked her hair with his gentle hand. "This morning, at the synagogue, the rabbi told his congregation that the Nazis have taken the synagogue list of all the Jews. Where they live, what their names are. Of course, the Rosens were on that list, along with many others. Why? Why do they want those names? They plan to arrest all the Danish Jews. They plan to take them away, and we've been told that they may come back tonight. I don't understand. Take them where?" Her father shook his head. "We don't know where, and we really don't know why. They call it relocation. We don't even know what that means. We only know that it's wrong, and it's dangerous, and we must help." Anne-Marie was stunned. She looked at Ellen and saw that her best friend was crying silently. "Where are Ellen's parents? We must help them too." "We couldn't take all three of them. If the Germans came to search our apartment, it would be clear that the Rosens were here. One person we can hide, not three. So Peter has helped Ellen's parents to go elsewhere. We don't know where. Ellen doesn't know either, but they are safe." Ellen sobbed aloud and put her face in her hands. Papa put his arm around her. "They're safe, Ellen. I promise you that. You'll see them again quite soon. Can you try hard to believe my promise?" Ellen hesitated, nodded, and wiped her eyes with her hand. "But Papa," Anne-Marie said, looking around the small apartment with its few pieces of furniture, the fat stuffed sofa, the table and the chairs, the small bookcase against the wall. "You said that we would hide her. How can we do that? Where can she hide?" Papa smiled. "That part is easy. It'll be as your mama said. You two will sleep together in your bed, and you may giggle and talk and tell secrets to each other. And if anyone comes," Ellen interrupted him, "who might come? Will it be soldiers, like the ones on the corners?" Anne-Marie remembered how terrified Ellen had looked the day when the soldier had questioned him on the corner. "I really don't think anyone will. But it never hurts to be prepared. If anyone should come, even soldiers, you two will be sisters. You're together so much, it'll be easy for you to pretend that you're sisters." He rose and walked to the window. He pulled the lace curtain aside and looked down into the street. Outside, it was beginning to grow dark. Soon, they would have to draw the black curtain that all Danes had on their windows. The entire city had to be completely darkened at night. In a nearby tree, a bird was singing. Otherwise, it was quiet. It was the last night of September. "Go now, and get into your nightgowns. It'll be a long night." Anne-Marie and Ellen got to their feet. Papa suddenly crossed the room and put his arms around them both. He kissed the top of each head, Anne-Marie's blonde one, which reached to his shoulders, and Ellen's dark hair, the thick curls braided as always into pigtails. Don't be frightened, he said to them softly. Once I had 3 daughters. Today, I am proud to have 3 daughters again. 5. Chapter 5, if you want to be, a jerk about it. Who's the dark-haired one? Do you really think anyone will come? Ellen asked nervously, turning to Anne-Marie in the bedroom. Your father doesn't think so. Of course not. They're always threatening stuff. They just like to scare people. Anne-Marie took her nightgown from a hook in the closet. Anyway, if they did, it would give me a chance to practice acting. I'd just pretend to be Lise. I wish I were taller, though. Ellen stood on tiptoe, trying to make herself tall. She laughed at herself, and her voice was more relaxed. You were great as the Dark Queen in the school play last year, Anne-Marie told her. You should be an actress when you grow up. My father wants me to be a teacher. He wants everyone to be a teacher, like him. But maybe I could convince him that I should go to acting school. Ellen stood on tiptoe again and made an imperious gesture with her arm. I am the Dark Queen, she intoned dramatically. I have come to command the night. You should try saying, I am Lise Johansson, Anne-Marie said, grinning. If you told the Nazis that you were the Dark Queen, they'd haul you off to a mental institution. Ellen dropped her actress pose and sat down, with her legs curled under her on the bed. They won't really come here, you think? She asked again. Anne-Marie shook her head. Not in a million years. She picked up her hairbrush. The girls found themselves whispering as they got ready for bed. There was no need really to whisper. They were, after all, supposed to be normal sisters, and Papa had said they could giggle and talk. The bedroom door was closed. But the night did seem somehow different from a normal night, and so they whispered. How did your sister die, Anne-Marie? Ellen asked suddenly. I remember when it happened, and I remember the funeral. The only time I've ever been in a Lutheran church, but I never knew just what happened. I don't know exactly, Anne-Marie confessed. She and Peter were out somewhere together, and then there was a telephone call that there had been an accident. Peter did it. Mama and Papa rushed to the hospital. Remember, your mother came and stayed with me and Kirsty? Kirsty was already asleep, and she slept right through everything. She was so little then. But I stayed up, and I was with your mother in the living room when my parents came home in the middle of the night. And they told me Lisa died. I remember it was raining, Ellen said sadly. It was still raining the next morning when Mama told me. Mama was crying, and the rain made it seem as if the whole world was crying. Anne-Marie finished brushing her long hair and handed her handbrush to her best friend. Ellen undid her braids, lifted her dark hair away from the thin gold chain she wore around her neck, the chain that held the Star of David, and began to brush her thick curls. I think it was partly because of the rain. They said she was hit by a car. I suppose the streets were slippery, and it was getting dark, and maybe the driver just couldn't see, Anne-Marie said, remembering. Papa looked so angry. He made one hand into a fist, and he kept pounding it into the other hand. I remember the noise of it. Slam, slam, slam. Slam? For real? Du-du-du-du-du-du. That's the fist making noise. Slam. Du-du-du-du-du-du. For the boys be boys. Slam. I wonder if they say let the boys be boys. But Du-du-du-du-du-du. Make noise be boys. Du-du-du-du-du-du. Let the boys be boys. That was a good one right there. Together they got into the wide bed and pulled up the covers. Anne-Marie blew out the candle and drew the dark curtains aside so the open window near the bed let in some air. See that blue trunk in the corner? She said, pointing through the darkness. Lots of Lisa's things are in there, even her wedding dress. Mama and Papa had never looked at those things, not since the day they packed them away. Ellen sighed. She would have looked so beautiful in her wedding dress. She had such a pretty smile. I used to pretend that she was my sister, too. She would have liked that, Anne-Marie told her. She loved you. That's the worst thing in the world, Ellen whispered, to be dead so young. I wouldn't want the Germans to take my family away, to make us live someplace else. But still, it wouldn't be as bad as being dead. Anne-Marie leaned over and hugged her. They won't take you away, she said. Not your parents either. Papa promised that they were safe, and he always keeps his promises. And you're quite safe, here with us. For a while they continued to murmur in the dark, but the murmurs were interrupted by yawns. Then Ellen's voice stopped. She turned over, and in a minute her breathing was quiet and slow. Anne-Marie stared at the window where the sky was outlined, and a tree branch moved slightly in the breeze. Everything seemed very familiar, very comforting. Dangers were no more than odd imaginings, like ghost stories the children made up to frighten one another. Things that couldn't possibly happen. Anne-Marie felt completely safe here in her own home, with her parents in the next room and her best friend asleep beside her. She yawned contentedly and closed her eyes. It was hours later, but still dark, when she was awakened abruptly by the pounding on the apartment door. Anne-Marie eased the bedroom door open quietly, only a crack, and peeked out. Behind her, Ellen was sitting up, her eyes wide. She could see Mama and Pop in their nightclothes, moving about. Mama held a lighted candle, but as Anne-Marie watched, she went to a lamp and switched it on. It was so long a time since they had dared to use a strictly rationed electricity after dark that the light in the room seemed startling to Anne-Marie, watching through the slightly open bedroom door. She saw her mother look automatically to the blackout curtains, making sure they were tightly drawn. Papa opened the front door to the soldiers. "This is the Johansson apartment?" A deep voice asked the question loudly in the terribly accented Danish. "Our name is on the door, and I see you have a flashlight," Papa answered. "What do you want? Is something wrong?" "I understand you're a friend of your neighbors, the Rosens, Miss Johansson," the soldier said angrily. You just ignore that Papa answered first, right? We just gonna go and intimidate the lady of the house. Like, that's what we gonna do. "Sophie Rosen is my friend. That's true," Mama said quietly. "Please, could you speak more softly? My children are asleep." "Then you'll be so kind as to tell me where the Rosens are." He made no effort to lower his voice. "I assume they're at home sleeping. It is 4 a.m. after all," Mama said. Anne-Marie heard the soldier stalk across the living room towards the kitchen. From her hiding place in the narrow sliver of open doorway, she could see the heavy uniformed man, a holstered pistol at his waist, in the entrance to the kitchen, peering in towards the sink. Another German voice said, "The Rosens' apartment is empty. We're wondering if they might be visiting their good friends the Johanssons." "Well," said Papa, moving slightly so he's standing in front of Anne-Marie's bedroom door, and she could see nothing but the dark blur of his back. "As you see, you're mistaken. There's no one here but my family." "You will not object if we look around." The voice was harsh, and it wasn't a question. "It seems we have no choice," Papa replied. "Please don't wake my children," Mama requested again. "There's no need to frighten little ones." The heavy, booted feet moved across the floor again and into the other room. A closet door opened and closed with a bang. Anne-Marie eased her bedroom door closed silently. She stumbled through the darkness to the bed. "Ellen," she whispered urgently, "take your necklace off." "No, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry." Ellen's hands flew to her neck. Desperately, she began trying to unhook the tiny clasp. Outside the bedroom door, the harsh voice and heavy footsteps continued. I can't get it open," Ellen said frantically. "I never take it off. I can't even remember how to open it." Anne-Marie heard a voice just outside the door. "What is here?" "Shh," her mother replied. "My daughter's bedroom. They're sound asleep." "Hold still," Anne-Marie commanded. "This will hurt." She grabbed the little gold chain, yanked with all her strength, and broke it. As the door opened and light flooded into the room, she crumpled it into her hand and closed her fingers tightly. Terrified, both girls looked up at the 3 Nazi officers who had entered the room. One of the men aimed a flashlight around the bedroom. He went to the closet and looked inside. Then, with a sweep of his gloved hand, he pushed to the floor several coats and a bathrobe that hung from pegs on the wall. There was nothing else in the room except for a chest of drawers, the blue decorated trunk in the corner, and a heap of Kirsty's dolls piled in a small rocking chair. The flashlight beam touched each thing in turn. Angrily, the officer turned towards the bed. "Get up," he ordered. "Come out here." Trembling, the 2 girls rose from the bed and followed him, brushing past the 2 remaining officers in the doorway to the living room. Anne-Marie looked around. These three uniformed men were different from the ones on the street corners. The street soldiers were often young, sometimes ill at ease, and Anne-Marie remembered how the draft had, for a moment, let his harsh pose slip and it smiled at Kersey. But these men were older, and their face was set with anger. Her parents were standing beside each other, their faces tense, but Kersey was nowhere in sight. Thank goodness Kersey slept through almost everything. If they had awakened her, she would be wailing, or worse, she would be angry and her fists would fly. Again. 5 just turned. For real? Angry and fighting? Swinging? Okay. Your names? The officer barked. Anne-Marie Johansson. And this is my sister. Quiet. Let her speak for herself. Your name? He was glaring at Ellen. Ellen swallowed. Lise, she said, and cleared her throat. Lise Johansson. The officer stared at them grimly. Now, Mama said in a strong voice, you have seen that we're not hiding anything. May my children go back to bed? The officer ignored her. Suddenly, he grabbed a handful of Ellen's hair. Ellen winced. He laughed scornfully. You have a blonde child sleeping in the other room, and you have this blonde daughter. He gestured towards Anne-Marie with his head. Where'd you get the dark-haired one? He twisted a lock of Ellen's hair. From a different father? From the milkman? Papa stepped forward. Don't speak to my wife in such a way and let go of my daughter, or I'll report you for such treatment. Or maybe you got her someplace else, the officer continued with a sneer. From the Rosens? For a moment, no one spoke. Then Anne-Marie, watching in panic, saw her father move swiftly to the small bookcase and take out a book. She saw that he was holding a family photograph album. Very quickly, he searched through his pages, found what he was looking for, and tore out 3 pictures from 3 separate pages. He handed them to the German officer, who released Ellen's hair. You will see each of my daughters, each with her name written on the photograph, Papa said. Anne-Marie knew instantly which photographs he had chosen. The album had many snapshots, all the poorly focused pictures of school events and birthday parties. But it also contained a portrait, taken by a photographer, of each girl as a tiny infant. Mama had written, in her delicate handwriting, the name of each baby daughter across the bottom of those photographs. She realized, too, with an icy feeling, why Papa had torn them from the book. At the bottom of each page, below the photograph itself, was written the date. And the real Lise Johansson had been born 21 years earlier. Kirsten Elizabeth, the officer read, looking at Kirsty's baby picture. He let the photograph fall to the floor. Anne-Marie, he read next, glanced at her, and dropped the second photograph. Lise Margaret, he read finally, and stared at Ellen for a long, unwavering moment. What grade were y'all in when you read this? 6th, right? In her mind, Anne-Marie pictured the photograph that he held, the baby, wide-eyed, propped against a pillow, her tiny hand holding a silver teething ring, her bare feet visible beneath the hem of an embroidered dress, the wispy curls, dark. The officer tore the photograph in half and dropped the pieces on the floor. Then he turned, the heels of his shiny boots grinding into the pictures, and left the apartment. Without a word, the other 2 officers followed. Papa stepped forward and closed the door behind him. Anne-Marie relaxed the clenched fingers of her right hand, which still clutched Ellen's necklace. She looked down and saw that she had imprinted the Star of David into her palm. Yep, saved my last bite of cookie just in case. That's smart. 916-633-1537, Ratchet and Ratchet at gmail.com, Ratchet Book Club on Twitter, Ratchet Book Club on Facebook. You can leave a review on Spotify. It takes like 13 seconds. You can also leave a review on Podchaser. Copy and paste that into Apple Podcasts, and then copy and paste that into the Good Pods app. You can donate to the show at patreon.com/single simulcast. $1 will get you a ton of content. You can also donate to the show at buymeacoffee.com/sscast or on the Good Pods app. You can leave a tip in the tip jar. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Y'all be good. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace. intro and outro to Ratchet Book Club is by That Kid Garan, and it's called Goodbyes. You can email him at tkgbeats94@gmail.com for more information on how to lease this beat.
This is Single Simulcast. Don't know by now, did you slip?